How was your week, Mr. Myers?
It's kind of I don't know. It's just I sometimes find weeks frustrating because there's so many opportunities of things that we can sell and leverage that you sort of sit there some days and go, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? It's like I need to just focus on one aspect and then put blinders on for everything else and stay there. I don't know. I don't know if it's my what do they call it? ADHD or whatever. But fuck, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, I think that as entrepreneurs that we all face this to some extent, and one of the practices, let me get this thing recording. One of the practices that I put in place that have, and I don't do this all the time, but I try to, and when I do it, it's more effective, is kind of on Sunday planning out my week of like, this is what my priorities are. This is what if I accomplish these things, I know this is going to be a win for me. This is going to be a successful week. And then scheduling my time around around those priorities. I had one of my coaches, we got the EOS coach to help us implement EOS, and we didn't hit all of our targets. And he asked me a really great question. He said, what was more important than your priorities? Because it was like, this is what we said were our priorities. When we were in a clear mind, we kind of like zoomed out. We took some time to look at everything and we said, all right, what are the most important things? And we went through and we said, these are the most important things. And then we didn't prioritize those. And I think that's what happens. And I believe that is the cure. The execution is the challenge of like, can we actually go through and do what we say the priorities are? Can we block out the time and not be reactive? Because it's easy where we're working online, like we can get pulled in a million directions. Imagine if your job was to go like build a barn in some field and you had no reception and you got all the stuff and you went out there, you're probably not leaving until that thing's done, right? But
Yeah.
we just have the ability to distract ourselves and to react. And I've seen that highest performers, like, that doesn't happen to Dan Martell. He's like, this is what I'm doing. Nothing else matters. Right. And that seems to be a bigger difference than like how smart we are, how many skills we have. It's just that ability to like focus and actually look at the priorities and do the things that are going to actually move us forward and not the things that are going to like make us feel like we were busy but didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah. Yeah. You seem to come into a Monday morning and it's almost weekly where this morning, 3 contractors, not enough leads. The leads aren't answering their phone. The quality of the leads suck. So they send you in a tailspin, even though you have your agenda of your shit that you want to get done. So it's just, I guess that's, I don't know. It can be frustrating. And I guess that's what entrepreneurship is all about. Right. But yeah.
Yeah. I think the real challenge kind of starts to be is like, who can be the most efficient with their time and the most effective with their time and like block that out and put systems in place to not be the ones that are responding to those. Like like, once you reach a certain spot, like that shouldn't be going to you. That should be going to somebody else on your team.
Yeah. I hear you.
So let's try something new and let's share wins at the beginning of the call.
Yeah.
Great idea I just had. Who's got wins to share?
Well, I guess I kind of got one there. I joined the Alignable, started getting some traction on that, and Paul just gave me a recommendation over there. So thank you, Paul, for that. But kind of discovered a new platform to start getting engaged, starting learning that. So posting stuff over there, and I've done 3 smart connects, and as you go along, it kind of aligns you, to it. But just another channel to make some connections. So I've already made a couple of connections. I haven't have it closed still yet, but started the ball on that. So I think for me, that's a win. Just finding another channel of 8 million people.
That's fantastic, Greg. The key here is now like make this channel work, block out everything else, dive into this one, get some connections, set some goals. Like, hey, can we get onto like maybe 5 calls by Friday from alignable connections, right? I think you start to, just kind of like piggybacking off what Paul and I were talking about. You get clear on your goals and on how you're going to accomplish them. This is the method. Don't get distracted. This is my goal, right? If it's like, well, if I don't accomplish this goal by the end of the week, something bad's going to happen, then we're probably going to find a way to do it. Like if it was like, hey, you're going to die if you don't do this by Saturday, like you absolutely will do it. So like, what do you have to overcome to reach that goal? And you guys we can't be such an easy boss on ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable because nobody else is going to do it to the same extent. All right. Seeing some good faces on here. Greg, congrats on jumping on that. Let's make something of it. Let's land a client from there. Who else we got? We got Mr. Alec Newmeyer. Good talk. Any wins to share?
I've been trying to buckle down on quality content creation, just kind of applying playing with prompts and stuff to get quality to come out of some of these AI content generation tools, and still it's always a constantly evolving process to build out the playbook and get employees on board and stuff. So no big deals won or anything this week, but working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the takeaways I had I'm going to share some takeaways from SEO Rockstars. But there's a software or a website called Perfect Prompt, which I guess really helps you make your prompts a lot better. I think that's what it's called. I have my list of notes open here. Prompt Perfect. It's called Prompt Perfect. So check that out. The guy kind of walked us through it, and it was pretty impressive. Prompt Perfect. Prompt Perfect. I don't know what's going on there. .j. I don't know. That's some weird extension there. Gina.ai, I think. So basically it'll help you create those prompts in a lot better way, and then you can save them. So we can jump into that a little bit more later, but sounds like you're leveling up that part of your game. Who else we got on here? Mike Anderson, you willing to turn on your camera and say hello? Haven't seen that face in a little while. Anybody else have any wins? No other wins? Mr. Greg, do you have any, or Mr. Jeff, do you have any wins to share?
Man, my head's just going in a lot of directions right now.
I know Jeff
off the top of my head.
Jeff's dealing with some personal challenges and on some stuff. So kind of, I don't think he wants to get into that, but wish him, send this guy some extra love today. Next week, I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenging time, but so I want to share with you guys. So last week, I had the opportunity to go to Boston and speak on stage with some of the top SEO people that I've had the opportunity to be around in my lifetime. Very, very high level people. It was fantastic. Made some great connections. Learned quite a bit. The way they set this event up was a little bit unique. They had 3 days of speakers, which that's a lot of speakers. So by the end of the time, I had a case of mushy brain syndrome, but it was awesome though, because there was a lot of high level people at this event. I've been to a ton of events and it's always like a mixed bag, but there was a number of people here that were doing $3, $4, $5 million. One guy I became kind of like built a friendship with. They've got 4,000 Google My Businesses. It's not often that I run into someone that has more than we do in our agency. And, you get these opportunities to kind of like go back and forth on what they're working with, what they're dealing with. And, there's always going to be takeaways that come from that. So we did like Thursday. This was pretty cool how the woman, Dory Friend, is the one who organized SEO Rockstars. I encourage you guys. She's a fantastic person. Encourage you guys maybe next year. I think it's going to be in Dallas. They do it once a year. I'll give you a little bit more notice on the event the next time. So but the way that she organized it, Thursday, we kind of had the whole day she had organized events for us to hang out. So we got to spend a lot of time with people, a lot of people doing things a lot of different ways. You know, I met a guy who he's kind of in the lead gen space, and he does a rev share. He like forces a rev share where he takes 10%. So he's like locking down 10%. I think he does some like client SEO, but a lot of the stuff he owns, and he leverages a lot of the client stuff. Very similar to how we're doing things, but he's basically one of the big takeaways I had from this guy was he is kind of like enforcing that he gets access to whatever they're using to track their leads, whether that be their CRM or if it's coming into, you know, a software like LeadSnap where, hey, we're tracking everything. But he has a conversation every month with them, and this gives him a lot of power to retain the client because he knows exactly what the ROI is at all times. And if you know the ROI, the clients are going to, and it's positive, then the clients are going to have a really hard time canceling on you because you can always just be like, hey, look, this is what we've done and this is what we created. So I think that was a really, really cool thing to do. And I'm searching for how I can kind of install this. It's easier to change a new client. Like when a new client comes in to say like, hey, this is how we do it and set the rules. Like you can't be in the middle of a relationship with someone that you've been in for a couple of years and be like, hey, that's not how we do things anymore. This is how we do it. So like, imagine that you said that to your wife where it's like, hey, we're no longer doing this. Now we're doing this. Like, that's not going to be really well received, but you can set the tone on new relationships. I think there's a lot of opportunity for our clients to come and say, hey, we want to provide you guys better service. We want to understand what we're doing. It can also be, in addition to client retention, it can also give you a constant barometer on how you're performing, right? If we know this information. So that was really fantastic. The way he sets things up for his agency, and this guy's got a big agency, they're doing a few $1 million a year. So the way this guy sets it up is he'll take a 6-month fee up front, where it's like, we're going to take $12,000 up front, and this, you're not going to have to pay anything for 6 months, and this is going to give us the capital that we need. He's going after the bigger players in the market. So I was talking to him like, hey, like, how are you getting guys to just like plop down 12K? Well, he's going after one of the top 3 companies in the market, and so they have 12K. You know, he wouldn't share with me what his niche was, but I assume he says he's in the home services industry. So, you know, it's kind of cool to see someone else that's having success using a little bit different tweaks on how they're doing things. Let's see here. I'm going to go back up to the top of my notes here. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy, DC Glenn. That you guys remember the song like Whoop, There It Is. So the guy who sung that song has gone into SEO, and he was at the event and he was one of the speakers. So got to hear his story a little bit. His name is actually Cecil Glenn, but he's from Denver. His name's Cecil, so they started calling him DC. So he shared a little bit about this story. You know, this guy, I think they did like $24 million with this record, and he like with his story we've heard a bunch of times, he got like no money from it, but he learned a lot. And one of the really cool things that he shared. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to kind of take you through some of this stuff, because this is something that a lot of you guys probably haven't thought of, but it's something that we can put into place. A lot of us, if for those of us that have been on a podcast, you probably have, oops, hold on. Stand by, technical difficulties. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. I clicked on the Google emblem and it took me to this Day of the Dead, which I think is a Filipino holiday, among other things. Okay. All right. So if we go to IMDb and we come in here and we search for SEO, you're going to find a bunch of like Korean people in here. Let's search for this. I think this guy was one of the speakers there, and he's got a podcast. This is a bad example. All right, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to say tag team That's the name of their band, right? So you see this over here. This is this kind of like knowledge panel. And the reason that this guy had to, when he first started doing SEO, this was all like wrestlers and stuff like this. But because he applied like SEO tactics and techniques, he was able to get this knowledge panel showing up, which is great for personal branding. So when you guys are going to clients and they do a search for you and your stuff shows up, this is the guy, your stuff shows up like this. He set this whole thing up for himself. This isn't how it was. And it's not solely because, he had to go and like set up IMDb, and then IMDb, once you have an IMDb account, you get the ability to create an IMDb Pro account. And that's like $80 a year. And then inside the IMDb Pro, you can essentially build out all this information about you and your company and this type of thing. And those are powerful links, right? You're not going to be able to send these to like lead gens, but for your own personal branding stuff. So the thing is with like podcasts, and I can see if I can find, let's see if we can find DC Glenn here. I could probably get this guy to join us on a call and take us through one time. So you can kind of see DC Glenn. He's been on some podcasts. I'm doing a bad job of showing this. They made it look really easy when we were in the event. Here's the deal though, is whenever you have a podcast, you have the option to get a producer credit on IMDb. So podcasts are some, you don't have to be in a movie. You don't have to, you don't have to be like a singer, an actor, or all those things. If you are like participating in one of these like forms of media, like a podcast, then you can get a credit, and then you can leverage that credit to help you secure the knowledge graph, like this guy did here, right? So you could kind of see like he's got SEO showing as a part of this because he was able to build out stuff, and it looks like it's pulling this in from YouTube. You've got IMDb here. So we all have this ability, even though we don't have this like, multi-million-dollar selling record. And then what happens is like, once you have IMDb Pro, you can start to set up like Wikidata and Wikipedia. So this stuff kind of like all stacks and waterfalls, which is going to be, I think this is fantastic for building up your personal brand. You guys want speaking opportunities? I recommend that you try to get yourself in like, if you're niche down, you want to be in association and you want to reach out to somebody, hey, send them some of your information. This looks very professional and credible when you do this, right? You can start to mention some of the articles. So this was a really powerful takeaway. I think this is like easy. This is an easy way to boost who we are. So I'm going to be setting this up. You guys notice that my background here is a little bit different. That's because I am I've transferred my office into this kind of like podcast recording studio. So it's a work in progress, but I'm going to be starting my own podcast, and I'm going to be interviewing other successful agency owners, influencers, stuff like this, and trying to bring more value, right? So I'm going to have this great opportunity to have my own IMDb stuff. I know that some of the podcasts I've been on in the past, I can easily go and leverage some of those because they've been set up inside of there. And if they haven't been, what a great value add to share with somebody who has a podcast. This could be even a way for you to get yourself on their podcast. Maybe it's a little bit out of your league, right? Where it's like, hey, this is a high level podcast, but they don't know about IMDb and how they can take advantage of that. So you're like, hey, I would love to be a guest on your show. Here's a strategy that you can use so that you can help build your brand. This could be that rule of reciprocity to help you boost that up. Any questions on that? Any comments? Do you guys see the value in this? Or like, what are your thoughts on this? I'd love to. Looks like we got a bunch of messages here. Link juice. Yeah, that's right. So 86. Super cool. And this DC Glenn, he's his life is all about SEO right now. He goes and he does commercials. He's in like the Geico commercial and does different stuff. Really approachable guy. Really cool. Nice. Really, really nice guy. All right. So let me go back here a little bit. So this other guy, and I can share part of this. I'm not going to share the brand. This guy has this software that he's built, and I'm going to talk to this guy. I'm going to test it a little bit, but it's a pretty cool idea. So I know there's a number of these out there, and basically they're pulling data on search, but they're doing it like, if you imagine Paul does a search for remodeling in Ontario, Canada there, and he goes and looks at a number of websites, and he never comes to my website. What this guy's software, what he's claiming this guy's software can do, is he can get you the name, email, and phone number of these people, even if they haven't filled out a form on a site, right? If they've shown enough interest in the area. So I know there's a number of ways that this can be done. I've heard about it. Obviously, these leads are going to come in like super cold because they haven't said, hey, I want this. But the way he's doing it, I think, is they have to do like 3 things that show a level of interest. So essentially what you can do is you can buy these leads, these cold leads, from him for like $2, $3. And then you could potentially resell these to a contractor. You're probably not going to want to sell these to a contractor for our normal lead pricing, where someone's actually raised their hand and said, hey, I want the service. So if you guys are interested in this, reach out to me in Facebook Messenger. I'll connect you. I haven't had a long conversation. I haven't tested this, so I hesitate to just like push it out, but I wanted to let you guys know if that sounds interesting to reach out. There is another guy, Brian Caddo. This whole event was really a ton about AI. So there's people sharing amazing AI strategies on how to do different things. So one of the guys, Brian Caddo, is like, he is deep into kind of like reverse engineering things, maybe along the like hacking edge of things. But he was talking about Neuron Phase as a great press release service, and Perplexity.ai. So I'm not going to dive into that. You guys can Google that, check it out, but I hadn't heard of it. It seemed like a pretty cool site. He also mentioned there was a number of things that will index. So I hadn't really thought of this, but if you guys used Notion before? So if you guys set things as public on Notion, those will actually index in Google, and those can be referrals to yourself. The same with Figma, which is usually used for kind of like drawing out user interfaces, Loom videos, and Lucid charts. If you set these things to public, these can be great sources for driving authority to your site. So I thought that was kind of a cool and easy takeaway. I had mentioned Prompt Perfect as a way to help you set up your perfect prompts. And I would absolutely sign up and play with that one. I think that one is gold mine. Hey, Alec, have you been playing with this the last few minutes since I mentioned it?
I have the website open here, and I'm looking at it. I want to play with it for content, because the examples they give aren't quite for content, but I want to like obviously the biggest thing is making it not sound like AI. And so if this helps me more quickly beta test that, or can like give me advice and save me hours and hours of A/B testing, that would be great. So I have it open on my other screen, but I haven't run anything yet.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things that they were talking about related to this, I don't know if it was in this or another one of these speeches, but the guy was, you can drop a photo into ChatGPT and you could say, describe what you see in this photo. And that will give you a prompt that you can use. You can alter that, and then you can reuse that prompt in a software like Midjourney to create your own photos, right? So you'll get a much better prompt than you would be able to come up with. So you drop your photo in and say, describe what you see in this photo. And then you use that as a way to create your prompt inside of a software like Midjourney. So for me, my brain was firing on a lot of different cylinders related to this. And, one of our big focuses is really starting to get a ton of AI stuff coming into LeadSnap. And that's the direction we're going to take things through with, photos, with posting, with Google My Business replies. We're kind of really going to focus a lot on the Google My Business stuff. I think we have a huge advantage, or we have a decent advantage so far, but we're just going to I'm just going to try to stretch that as much as possible so that it is embarrassing almost for other providers to be mentioned when, like, Google My Business, LeadSnap, or that's not really a question, right? Like, so that's really where we're going to take things, and we're going to, I'm moving some of my developers over. We're going to probably have 3 to 4 or 5 times more development going into our platform related to the Google My Business and heat map stuff. So we're going to have some major changes. A lot of this is going to be AI related. And I think the photos, like the automatically generated photos, is a fantastic opportunity. So, some of you guys have heard me talk about Monic a little bit. Monic, I know that some of you guys are in his course. Monic, we met about a year and a half ago at an event, right? You guys know I'm a big proponent of events. The outcome is learning and creating new friends. At this SEO Rockstars, there's like maybe 4 people that I connected with where I'm like, I love this guy. I want to continue to hang out with these people. And it's really cool when you connect with that type of friend, and they're both kind of in the same industry, and they're successful in their own right. So if you want to go on a trip, they have the capability to come kind of like join you on this stuff. So I a number of those connections, but Monic's speech I think it was fantastic. Monic went through like the 4 big ranking factors. For somehow I do not have that on my I don't understand what happened to it. I thought I had it on here. I was taking fantastic notes. Anyways, so Monic also was talking about how like SEO is not magic, it's math. That was a big takeaway for me, is like, guys, this isn't the algorithm is essentially just using math. That is what it's doing. It's comparing things. It's using math to make decisions. That's what it's all about. So you don't have to be some like snake charmer to get this stuff to work. Basically, if you just like follow the principles. So we want authority. We want to create this knowledge-based trust. So Monic's a big believer in knowledge-based trust. And what does that mean? It's basically thoroughly covering a topic and using facts. So part of what during his presentation, he talked about how Google is looking for facts. So if I say that Alec is from Canada, Paul is from Canada, Jeff is from Texas, I've given 3 facts, and now if I express some other information that they don't know to be true, they're more likely to believe it. So the idea of kind of like taking these facts and building those into your content is important. And what Monic suggests is to have like 10 facts. You want to make sure that these facts are on the pages, things that Google knows to be true. So you can kind of build up trust, right? If I say that, like I said, Alec is from Canada, Paul's from Canada, Jeff's from Texas, and then I go over and I say, Dante is from Philadelphia, right? Then they're more likely to believe that because I've already proved that I've demonstrated that I have some trustworthy information here, right? So knowledge-based trust, I think it's huge. It goes to this kind of like this idea of these clusters, this topical map where we're covering everything in depth. So really, Monic's presentation, I think, was one of my favorite. Monic and I have had like deep SEO conversations. We also, some of you guys were at our last event. When I came to speak, I spoke on Friday, and I spoke like kind of after lunch, and there was like technical difficulties, and then I felt like everyone's sugar was crashing. So we did a rock, paper, scissors tournament. My boy Monic made it all the way to the finals, where he lost. He choked in the end. So if you guys know Monic, you want to tease him. But it was a good run. So always a great way to kind of reset some of the energy there. So Lee Witcher, it was one of the other speakers. I thought what he presented was absolutely fantastic. He was asking, I kind of put this in my page the other day, but I'd love to hear, maybe we can just like open up the conversation a little bit, we can debate on whether this is going to be true or not. That's a whole nother conversation. But he was basically saying 80% of the jobs over the next decade are going to be run by AI, right? They're going to be replaced by AI. Where should we be? What should you be focused on? We don't need to get into semantics of whether it's like 80% or 70% or whatever. If it were true that 80%, I'd love to hear from some of you guys. What does that mean to you? What will you do if 80% of the jobs, where's the opportunity at? And he said that knowledge-based workers are going to get, those ones are going to get hit the hardest. So imagine that you have the ability to train a model, right? So if I uploaded the last 100 years of case law and every law in the United States into the system, some of the stuff it's not going to know what to do, and it's going to say like, hey, if this is the case, then this. And you know, in another speech, I'm going to circle back to this while you guys are thinking of those answers. I'm going to come back to this. So this guy, Terry Power, he gave a fantastic speech. There's a software called AnswerBot, and you can train AnswerBot. So what he did is he took like, I think it was from like SEO Intelligence. We've got Mr. Monic Bond coming on here now. So maybe we can get him to share some of the highlights from his speech. So Monic, we were just talking about you. What's up, brother? I was just going over some of the highlights from your speech. I'm going to come back to you in just a second if you're willing to mic up there. But so the guy on Terry Power on AnswerBot, he took all these SEO studies and he put these into he trained this machine essentially, and you can ask SEO questions to it, and the answers from these questions were very satisfying to this room full of like hardcore SEO geeks. They're like, ask a challenging question, get a fantastic answer. So what does that mean? What does that mean for like accountants? What does that mean for lawyers, where we can upload this and train this thing? So with what he did, I think he said there was just shy of 1 million words that were uploaded into this model. So they have another one that has 24 million words, and it's all on law. So they're asking legal questions to this thing, and it's giving like fantastic answers. So can we define knowledge-based worker? So Alec, maybe I just did that. So if 80% of the jobs are replaced in the next 10 years by AI, what does that mean? I'd love to hear. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Not a. We'll tell you what.
I got some thoughts.
Yeah.
I actually, it was interesting because I spent a couple days sitting next to my sister at my mom's school. They have a preschool up to like 12-year-olds, and I was like working in the office, and I asked them. I said, "Hey, do you know what ChatGPT is?" And they're like, "Chubba dubba da. What is that?" And I had to explain AI as if it didn't exist already for over almost a year to all of us. And so just in like, I maybe took 10 minutes and I described what it was and they weren't getting it. And I said, okay, let me give you some examples. And I was like, all right, so there's a COVID outbreak at the school. You got to write the thing to all the parents. And she's like, my sister was like, yeah, I just spent 25 minutes like doing that. She had just sent it. That's how I got the idea. So I asked ChatGPT, it spit out, and she's like, oh, can you send that to me? I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, how about like, there's this jerk off of a little kid who comes into the office crying, but he's the one who's always hurting the other kids. And now you have to tell the parents that like, they need to be better parents or you got to kick him out. But you need to write that nicely. And so it spit out that from there, like blown away. So to answer your question, like, where do I think, like how to position yourself? Another example, my 3 generations ago, my family was one of the families who opened up a hardware store during the gold rush. And that's how my family had money, 100 and something years ago. So I think it's going to be something similar. Like the tools will exist and there'll be people reaching for building all this stuff. But I do think that there's a way to, if you become specialized enough expert, you'll be able to add value a lot faster than traditional consultants and advisors could. Like even with SEO today, I'm able to offer 3 or 4 times what they're used to getting with their old SEO providers. And I'm starting to win all these people because I'm using AI and just delivering higher quality at a higher pace. And if this trend continues, then, I walked in, that was a 10-minute consult that is like, both of them were like blown away for like days afterwards, messaging me new uses that they thought of for AI. And I'm like, yeah, I could have probably just used AI to make a list of uses for AI and given it to them and been like a genius in their eyes. So I think it's going to be like, there's going to be levels of sophistication and customization and building out probably like using AI to build custom programs for small businesses to support them. And that's going to be like, I think that's kind of where I would want to, that's how I'm thinking about positioning, is kind of like leveraging and advice, and more, it's going to be more in the planning and direction as opposed to the busy work, which is where a lot of people make their money these days, is just doing the busy work. So
Yeah, I think you're kind of like hitting on a few different things that I thought of when I heard this. Is whoever is employing AI is going to have an advantage. You're beating out other people that are not, right? So we're going to see that more and more. Like within our little world of SEO, and that's a very small sliver of the world. Like the general population, most people do not know what SEO means. I mean, that's just like the facts. Like you go and ask like 10 people on the street, what does SEO mean? Like I'd be shocked if one of those gives you the right answer, right? Within our world, AI is popular. Outside of that, most people, like you set out, they don't know it exists. So this is a fantastic time for you to provide better services, not only to your clients, but also if you can get them to, if your clients, if you can help solve some of their problems that they're seeing with this, then you can really differentiate yourself from other marketers. One of the first things that I thought when I saw this number, so like if 80% of people get replaced by AI, then that means that using AI, we have the ability to do the work that previously 80% of people were doing at our fingertips, right? Like we can perform these skills and things that we're not trained on, that it required all these other people in the past, in an automated fashion. That's tremendous. Look at all the different sectors that exist out there. One of the guys, when we were talking about this in this answer bot, so this guy did this like answer bot thing, and this ties in directly to this question in my opinion. So he's the guy that trained all this, like the SEO questions thing. And what if we did this in our agency? We have the ability, we use Slack. All of our conversations are in Slack. Slack has the ability to export from Slack into whatever, a note file. And if I can train I can train this language learning module with my Slack conversations. Like, here's every conversation that's happened in the history of my company, uploaded into this. And then I hire a new employee. I could have an assistant within my company that's answering all these questions, right? We could do the same for LeadSnap, right? We have all of our support stuff. Like every question that's in there, we have the ability to export any past questions, right? Another guy, this was absolutely fantastic. This guy, his name's Brian. So Brian is basically setting up a call center. And he took he's in solar, and he took 350 phone calls and he uploaded those into the module. And now he has, he paid for this higher level of he's basically got a dedicated server with some licensing off of this phone person talking. They can do outbound and they can do inbound. And they played a conversation with this phone bot that was talking. You would have not known that this was AI. That was the first time that I've ever heard a conversation where I'm like, I had no idea. So this person makes this outbound call, or this AI makes this outbound call, and this guy answers the phone, and it's like, hey, so-and-so, I saw that you inquired about solar. And he's like, yeah, that's true. He's like, okay, so how much are you currently paying on a monthly basis? And the guy's like, about $300 a month. And the response was like, that's a lot of money. I was like, that's AI? This thing was you could hear it taking breaths, and it was using filler words, and it sounded so real. This whole conversation, she booked an appointment with this guy to come out and talk to him, but it was all AI, right? So, and that was an outbound call. And we started asking questions. Well, if it doesn't know the answer, what is, and it's got responses set up if it doesn't know the answer. So I think support and call center stuff, those people, after hearing that, those people, their days are numbered. They are not going to be around years from now because of what I just witnessed in its infancy. It was fantastic in its infancy. He's already using it. So this guy's running a $5 million agency that's focused on solar. And these are these people are on the cutting edge of some of these things. And AI, the more you think about it, I think the more uses that you're going to come up with it. and how you can kind of like solve some of these problems. So Mr. Greg, I saw you had your hand up there.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on it. You're spot on with that right there. So people that are, doing office work, things like that, the regular task of accounting and things like that are going to definitely be impacted. We're seeing it on a daily basis, but there's still going to be, I don't know, it's going to be 80% because we're still going to need the manual labor, and there's still a big there's still a big force. And the reason I'm saying that is because I did a stint with Mr. Musk there for about 3 years in the Tesla plant. So I was in the plant seeing hands-on, and I've seen them actually throw away millions of dollars worth of automation because it wouldn't work right in replacing it with humans. So we have a long way to go with automation. They hype it up, but the other part of it, as far as doing secretarial work, accounting, things like you're talking about right there, lead generation, we're going to have to do something to facilitate that.
Yeah, I think the knowledge-based people are going to be hit the hardest, and
Yeah,
and some of those people, lawyers, accountants, this type of stuff, they're very smart people, right? I thought it would be true that the type of people that would be replaced are going to be the people that are kind of like the lowest level people. And now kind of after going to this, I think maybe that's not true. It's the people that like are going like it's the people where their value is based on the like communicating the information that they have, because they can upload that and they can load that, and the thing can function like a human being and recall this information and compare things. So we asked, like, what happens if there's two contradictory facts or two contradictory pieces of information that are part of this thing's knowledge base? It will say like, hey, there's two different scenarios here. We're not sure which one. And it will tell you like, some people think this and some people think this, right? So it can handle that. That's kind of like a complex decision, right? But it can leverage all this different stuff, which is like knowledge base. That's not low level people only, guys. That was kind of like a takeaway that I had from this. Alec Newmeyer, what do you got, brother?
Yeah, I was just thinking like with that Tesla example, like with the amount of innovation coming out in AI, we need I feel like this is like the .com. Like you need the smallest bit of original thought with the tools available, and you can make an absolute fortune. Like the internet came out and somebody made hundreds of millions of dollars with flower delivery online. And that was like okay, I have this giant online world. I have this giant online world. We can do anything with the internet, connect to anyone on the planet. What do I want to do? I want to do local flower delivery. And that was like their tiny little niche, and they made, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so it feels like even in Patric's example, that guy, there's a million things he probably could do with solar, but he got up to a $5 million agency just because he loaded enough calls. He paid for enough people to make manual calls that he could run an experiment with an AI call, and it's like working for him. So it's like it's pretty cool. It's amazing how little we have to get right in order to like leverage pretty significant returns, because so much of the population is like unaware of what's possible, and they're just not keeping it's not even about keeping your ear to the ground. I think it is about like spend the money and the time and take bets. So
I think the experiments, playing around with it is really where it's going to get you to, imagine like, it's kind of like this. When the car first came out, if you were to say like, hey, I'm going to learn how to drive this car, suddenly you have this ability to go places that at a speed that no one else had previously, right? And some people said like, I don't want to, like, those cars, this is a fad. I don't want to drive those cars. I'm going to stay on what I trust, which is a horse, or I'm going to walk. This is the way it's done. And at some point, that was no longer like the common viewpoint. And that's how this is. Like if you kind of have the option of what you're going to do with this. If you run a company and there's people that are competing against you that are using a better technology, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And at some point, that disadvantage is going to be so great that you're going to be left behind, and it's going to be tough. the people that embrace it, there's a painful learning curve that's going to happen. But as you play with this, you kind of like chip away at it. You look for courses, you look for coaches, you learn, and then you get this advantage. And your ability to yield this unbelievable power is going to come down to like how knowledgeable you are with it. And I've played around with it. After I left that conference, I went and I started buying courses. I'm like, I'm going to just like dive deep into this and figure out how I can master this as much as possible. And like, how can I be bringing this into my software? How can I create there's a gold rush opportunity here. We've seen this when the internet came. I think this is kind of like it's another one of these versions where it's like all of a sudden there's this amazing technology that's available, and who's going to embrace it? And you're going to have an advantage if you do. And I think if you don't, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So I think we can kind of all kind of agree on that. Just kind of looking through some more of my notes here because we bounced around. I'm not sure if I have any questions here. Greg Adams, I don't know what the Gary V wine library. My apologies if I missed that.
No, he just took advantage of it way back in whenever he started out. He started out on the internet, and nobody, they all said he was crazy and he wouldn't work. All the old guys told him it wasn't going to work, and he just took his dad's business from 1 or 2 million to like 70 million, just leveraging the technology at the time. So that's all I was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone thinks it doesn't work until it works, right? It's just like, hey, you can't run a 4-minute mile and then someone does it, and then a bunch of people did it. The same thing kind of happened in baseball. If you guys remember, like it was like Roger Maris, 61 home runs, stood for decades. And then someone broke it, and then it got broke like a few times over the next few years. It's 100% agree. I think this was so Ted Kubitis. He's another SEO OG. I think he could be borderline AI, just the way his brain works, and like just really, really smart guy, kind of that engineering mindset. He went through, he shared 10 tips. And like one of them, that maybe applies for us is like that there's those Google My Business. Maybe I can find one real quick and I'll show you. See, karaoke bar near me. So there's like tabs for different things, like handicap service, stuff like this. There's one for karaoke. There's a number of these different tags that exist. I typed in karaoke near me and it didn't even give me the maps, which is weird. But he talks about looking for sites or companies that are missing those tags on the GMB, and how this is like quick wins because you can get those in there. You can get a quick ranking boost. You can show like quick results. Let me see here. Google's not cooperating with me on this. Let me go back to some more of my notes on here. Man, I just had a scrolling issue. So this was a really cool takeaway. So that Google going through and like scraping all of our sites, they have like apparently they have like a budget that they're willing to apply to a domain. And then as like they go through, like they're going to go through and they're going to say like, hey, we're at Patric's site. It looks like there's 10,000 pages in here. We're not going through all 10,000 pages every time we come to the site. We've assigned this budget based on the importance of this domain. So based on this, we're gonna index like 250 things, right? So, and then we're gonna go on to the next one. And when we come back, we're gonna start at 251. So I hadn't really heard this concept before. I wasn't really familiar with this like budget. But Google, if you think about the trillions of sites that they're trying to index and keep track of, it makes perfect sense. They're going to limit this. So when you start to have pages on your site that don't really matter much, or maybe you've accidentally, I had this locksmith guy one time, and he had all these like pages that were duplicates, like hundreds of duplicate pages. And one of the first things we did was try to like de-index some of these duplicate pages and get them out of there. And a benefit to that is this like SEO budget. So you want to make sure that you've got your website really cleaned up and understand like, hey, which ones are they actually passing through? And he shared this idea, like you could essentially hide text. Like, I know this is like, hey, we say this is spamming, but imagine I created like some crazy keyword that had like whatever 35 characters and nobody's ever searched for this thing. And I want to know if Google has actually been to this page. Well, I could essentially embed this keyword and then I could search for it like a week later. And I could even include a date. And I could say, okay, Google found this like crazy string of characters that doesn't appear really anywhere else on the internet. And I know that this page has been hit now because like this crazy keyword is indexed, and it doesn't have to be visible, right? Like we could set it, like Google reads through the code. They're not reading your actual text, right? They're going through the code and then they're pulling out what is actual text. So if you have something that's hidden and then you search for it, you can find it that way. And that was a really cool trick of how we can test whether Google is kind of like passed through our stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of talk about like, hey, don't focus on trying to rank for 25 things at once. Focus on your main keyword. Once you have secured your main keyword, then start to build up some stuff around it. This main keyword could include, you could have a cluster of different things that are all kind of like focused around this main keyword. So one of the strategies they talked about here, which is like a little like, if you guys aren't testing things, you should absolutely be testing different strategies and what's working. But maybe you don't want to test on your site. Maybe you don't want to test on like your client's site. So taking something that's like ranking, that's not yours, and you want to test a strategy out, like taking something that's ranking like 50th and kind of like playing with it a little bit. And here's the thing though, if you tank somebody else, I mean, if you tank somebody that's ranking 50, they're not really going to feel it necessarily, but maybe you owe them a debt to try to return that. So that was a really good strategy of like how we can test some things. Maybe you want to test some of your own stuff. This guy, Ori Bengal, he's like a image master, and he spent a lot of time. I was really impressed. I want to build out a training on this after I play with this more, but basically going through Midjourney, and he was basically saying you can't copyright an AI image. If something like the legality is if something is copyrighted, I mean, if something is generated with AI, then apparently it can't be copyrighted. So that means that there's galleries out there that have tons of stuff on there. He also showed there's like a tool inside of Midjourney where you can, like, imagine I have this like AI image of me and I want to change my face. You can like circle the face and just change that part of it to lock out the rest of the image. So that was super cool. I wish I could dive more into that. There's a plugin called Real Photos for Midjourney that you can actually use to make your photos look way more realistic. I know for us, we haven't really fully adopted the AI image stuff. And after going to this conference, that's something that we struggled with, is like, we're still like trying to get photos and do this different thing. I'm stopping that nonsense in my agency. I'm going to really push to have them creating like AI images and ones that look realistic rather than trying to find, 300 photos of a garage floor or, whatever it is, a fence, to like, that can be nauseating when we have machines that can do it and they can do it really well. There's a site called Civit. I'll put it in here, civit.ai. I'll throw it into the chat. This was really cool. So basically what you can do is you can take an AI image and put it into Civit, and then Civit will tell you the settings that were used to create that image. So you can get those settings and you can drop it into ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me what you see in this. And this could be your pathway for creating something that's very similar. So that was a pretty cool thing. Any questions on any of this? I know I've been kind of like rattling through things. We're almost at 4:00 Eastern, and I just wanted to make sure I hit on all the different speakers here. But I'll open it up for questions if anyone has any.
No, it's great to hear what you learned.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you take a picture of something and then you show some of that picture and the picture doesn't look as cool as what you saw. That's kind of what it feels like for me, where I was like, man, there was all this like amazing stuff. and then I regurgitate it through when I'm not the expert at it. And like, these are just kind of like, hopefully you guys are getting some value from this, but
you're doing a great job, Patrick. It's all very interesting stuff to hear. So thank you.
Awesome. So then we had Michael Merlino out there, and I'll share some of the takeaways that happened in between his cuss words. So he talked about stacking press releases. That's something I've just heard time and time again from high-level SEOs is like, don't count on one press release to be like the golden solution there or whatever. So you want to be stacking a bunch of those. Monica and I are discussing how like we're doing some testing on these to try to figure out which ones we like the best. But
when you say stacking, do you mean just like get a ton of press releases, or do you mean get a press release and then get a press release about your press release?
Getting a ton of press releases. So like getting one and then getting another one and then getting another one.
Got it.
So for those of you guys that are using like the CTR type stuff, Mike had shared like running a CTR to a referral site rather than having it all go to your money site, to kind of like water it down and filter it and protect yourself a little bit. So imagine that I've got a link on this other site that goes to my site. We're running it to that site and then clicking on that and then coming into yours. So you're getting like branded referral traffic. So it would be like Tom's Hardware on, Gem site. So I go to Gem site and I click on Tom's Hardware, and then that goes to my site. So that was a pretty cool strategy to kind of like water down the CTR. He was really big on really like taking advantage of all, like creating creating the profiles on all the social sites as a part of like his GMB strategy. Is like, you got to have those top socials. That's like a starting spot. Google has, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Google has just, I think over the last couple of weeks, I don't know if it was like 2 weeks ago or something, they introduced the social handles within your GMB profile. We'll be adding that capability. If like, I've got to check on what Google will allow us to do, but if they give us that opportunity, I'll be building that into LeadSnap, where you can put those things directly into that system. Talked about sending links to the Google My Business, and a lot of different ways to create this CIDs, like manipulated URLs. Like you can get to a Google map through a lot of different ways, and like where you're searching from can impact that. So my thought process is like, how do I build that into LeadSnap? So that was another thing we're kind of looking at. He's a huge supporter for like TikTok for local, for our clients, of like trying to use hashtags on local within TikTok. He said he's had a ton of success with that. So that was kind of cool. Or talking to local influencers, right? So if there's some guy that's like one of the top accounts for Boston, like having that person kind of prop up your local sites can have amazing benefits, right? That can bring a lot of attention. That and a lot of these guys, especially the local influencers, they don't really know how to monetize, right? So you pay them $100, they might blast this thing out to 500,000 people that are following them locally. So that can give you a ton of attention and a quick boost for almost no money. I think a lot of you guys know this. There's kind of like 3 different algorithms that are working in Google search. There's the actual like Google search, there's the local service search, and then there's the Google Maps. Those are completely different, separate algorithms, but I think there's some value in there. They talked about link rotators. So link rotator is, imagine that. So basically what this thing will do is it will embed a link, but it can send it out to a bunch of different sites. And then when you click on it, it'll send you this way one time and this way another time. So this can be great. Imagine that, like, hey, I'm going to send it to the homepage. I'm going to send it to this page. I'll send it to my Facebook profile. Right. So I'm going to look and see how we can do that. Mike also talked about how Quora is a fantastic spot for referral traffic. A lot of times if you answer it too spammy, it's going to get pulled down. But what you could do is you could go up and look for an opportunity, if it's local, to answer a question that applies to, like in the example he gave, there's somebody like looking for a realtor in like Brooklyn, and he came and wrote out like a really good answer, and that he was able to determine, I think, that he's received a good amount of traffic. So part of what we want to do is we want to have this traffic coming in from all these. It shouldn't just be like Google only, right? When you start to have referral traffic coming in from all these other sources, you build up a ton of trust, right? Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up here in just a second. Any final questions? We are at 4:02 and I have a call with a potential client. So as I mentioned, that I pulled Jeff out of like the sales role for a little bit so that he could focus on the software. I'm going to rebuild some of our systems. So I have a client call. And how did I get this client call? I went back to my roots. I've got another number of systems in place, but I just started cold calling some people. And I think, so got into a conversation. The guy said, hey, you know what? You called at the perfect time. We're looking for a marketing company. If you can prove that you know what you're doing, we would love to give you guys a shot. So I think I have a pretty decent chance of converting this guy into a closed client, right? The reason that happened is because I called them. I picked somebody up. I picked the phone up and I made a phone call. For those of you guys that don't know what to do and you're struggling to land clients, you can start by calling people. It's not that hard. They can't punch you through the phone. They can hang up on you. It doesn't hurt. It's fine. You're going to be all right. You can walk it off, right? So taking action, I think, is the key here. And we're building up a number of systems that we're going to use for bringing on clients, right? My agency goal is to land 5 clients per month, right? How do we get the systems? I don't want cold calling to be our only long-term strategy, right? We're building up a number of pipeline systems through email, and we're building a directory in our niche, and a lot of different positioning things here. But I just want to kind of like leave you guys with that. So you guys, let's do what we got to do over the next week. We're coming up. We have like 61 days or something left in 2023. You still have the opportunity to kind of impact how you close out this year, right? On January 1st, you will lose that opportunity. How do you want to look back on this year? What do you want your revenue, your profits, your accomplishments, whatever those are? What do you want those to look like? So 61 days, we've got, 8 weeks or so left in the year. Next call, you have 7 weeks left. What are you going to do between now and then to move your business forward and close this year out with something you're proud of? So do the actions that are necessary, whether that's joining Alignable, as Greg mentioned, right? Or cold calling like I did, but do something that's going to move your business forward, guys. You have that opportunity. I just want to inspire you to take advantage of it for yourself. You guys have an awesome week. And if you have any questions, we'll see you in the group. Appreciate you guys.